Thank you for listening to this episode of the Feldencast. I'm your host, Ethan Cowan. Hello, welcome to the Feldencast, episode 8, To See or Not to See, part 2. This is based on AY7, and as the name might suggest to you, this is covering some themes that are kind of similar to the ones that I covered in episode number 4, which was To See or Not to See 1. But then, on the other hand, there's some surprising stuff that happens in this lesson. And it actually kind of feels like, in my opinion, it ends up feeling like it's sort of like 2 or 3 lessons in one. These very interesting, distinct, kind of compositional sections to the lesson. So I won't say too much about that, but see what you think. It's pretty interesting. I've gotten some really nice emails from a couple listeners. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I'd like to say again, I always love to hear from the rest of you who are listening. It's been a little while between segments, and I have to say that my pace, my release pace has been a little bit slower than I would like. But I hope that the lessons are useful, and it's nice to know that they can be up for a while. So feel free to revisit ones that you've enjoyed. There's a lot of value in doing new lessons. There's always something fun about novelty. But there's also great value in revisiting. So happy listening. Here's episode 8, To See or Not to See 2. Please begin by simply lying on your back. Now roll yourself over onto your front. And face to the left so that your right cheek or your right ear is on the floor. And have your arms, both of your arms, up above your head on the floor. They don't need to be straight per se, but they should be long. And now in this position, a few times, very slowly, lift your head a little bit away from the floor and then set it back down. You don't need to lift the head very high, but just lift it a little bit and then set it down completely. Now when you lift your head, look in the direction of your left hand. And when you set the head back down, you can look back where you started. And if you're used to doing movements with your eyes closed, this is actually a good lesson to practice working with the eyes open. So when you lift the head, you actually look at the left hand, the left fingers, the left wrist, left thumb. And then when you set the head back down, you're looking at some other part of your arm. Okay, now next time you're looking at your left hand, lift the left hand away from the floor by lifting the arm a little bit. And then set the arm and the hand back down and set the head back down. You form a little sequence of movements. You lift the head to look at the hand. Then you lift the hand by lifting the arm. Then you set the arm and the hand back down. And you set the head back down. And as you go through that sequence a few times, just notice something. When you lift the left hand, the arm, doesn't the arm lengthen a little bit more? And also, how many cycles of breathing do you do during this movement sequence from start to finish? Okay, good. Now just rest on your front side. You can rearrange your arms into any position that's comfortable, but just rest. Now turn your head to the right, so your left cheek, your left ear is on the floor. You can have the arms long above your head on the floor. Not necessarily straight, but long. And to start a couple times, simply lift the head facing this direction. Let's see if it's the same as the other side or any different. You go very slowly because there could be some adjustments that you need to make on this side. Sometimes little adjustments have their own timeline. And now next time you're lifting your head, direct your face and your open eyes toward your right hand. And then you let the face and the eyes return to their starting orientations. And you can do the movement a number of times. Try not to do repetitions of the movement so you don't go on autopilot. It's not the same every time. You go slowly and you listen to the movement. It's kind of like watching a little show. You feel all these little adjustments make appearances. Where do they come from? Now, next time you're looking at the right hand with the head lifted a little away from the floor, then also lift the right hand a little from the floor by lifting the right arm. Now, doesn't the right arm lengthen as you lift the right hand? So from the starting position, you feel the neck moves backwards a little bit as the face turns up to look at the hand. And then when you lift the hand a little bit, the arm lengthens significantly as it lifts away from the floor. And what's happening with the chest as the arm moves? So you're watching the hand the whole time as it comes away from the floor, goes back toward the floor. You're going to take the hand farther and farther away from the floor. What direction will you take it? Away from the floor means toward the ceiling. So you might think you're taking it up in relationship to the room, but aren't you also taking it backwards in relation to yourself, like behind you? Okay, good. Let it be and just roll onto your back. Rest on your back for a moment. You're resting not necessarily because you're tired, but you can notice things change during the movements and after the movements. You just feel your anatomy in terms of the actions you did. Okay, now roll yourself back onto your front. You turn the head to the left again, the right cheek, the right ear on the floor. And again, the arms long on the floor above your head. And now do the same sequence of movements you were just doing, but now you're looking at the left hand. So the head lifts and looks with the eyes open at the left hand, and then the left hand lengthens away from the face as it starts to lift from the floor. And if it continues to lift farther back, just feel what direction does it go for you. So as the head lifts and looks at the left hand moves backward. The chest can roll a little to the right. And you can make it reversible so that the chest rolls back as the arm comes down and the head gets set down. And now feel. If you take the left hand farther so that the chest rolls more to the right, when do you feel like the left knee would want to start to bend? You roll to the right, the left knee could bend and potentially draw up on the floor a little bit. And you can also keep breathing. Great, leave it be and just rest on your front for a moment. Turn your head to the right and put your left cheek, the left ear on the floor. Now, without necessarily getting there all at once, you continue with the movement on this side. You start at the beginning though, so you start simply turning the open eyes toward the right hand, and the right arm lengthen, lift away from the floor. You watch it with the eyes. And as the right arm goes back, it rolls the chest to the left. And if you go far enough with the right arm, then there's a point where the chest rolling makes it seem like it might be good to bend the right knee a little bit, have it drawn up on the floor a little. And also, what about the left arm that's long? The left arm kind of easy on the floor. You end up rolling over the left armpit a little bit, right? Now, a couple times, go slowly enough so you can feel how many inhalations and exhalations during one of these movements. Again, just pause for a moment on your front. Okay, now unpause. Continue, just lifting the head to look at the hand, the open eyes. You lengthen the right arm, bring it away from the floor. Roll to the left, let the right knee bend, and get drawn up on the floor. And the whole time you're watching the right hand with the eyes, both as it comes away from the floor and as it returns to the floor. Good. Now next time your right arm is all the way back and your right knee is bent, and also bend your left knee. Feel how that can kind of roll you onto your back. Your two knees end up bent up in the air. You're still looking at your right hand. Of course, it's reversible too. You can watch the right hand and just lengthen the left leg. That'll roll the pelvis over to the left. And you can lengthen the right leg as well, and you end up back on your front. So you end up with the two legs long, back in the starting position. And then you can use this as a way to roll yourself from your front onto your back while always looking at your right hand. And just try it one more time, watching the right hand before you switch over to the other side. So there's this great moment where the right knee bends, and you can also bend the left knee and just roll yourself easily onto the back with two bent legs. And then you just go back the same way, but in reverse. And when you're on your front, just change your eyes so they're looking the other hand. And then just go the other way. But it's really not important to go all the way at once. In fact, maybe it's important not to go all the way at once. Take your time to notice how different it is to roll over the right side of the chest, the right armpit. It's a very particular moment when it feels like the left leg should start to bend. And let it take you some time before you start to also bend the right leg. So you can find out exactly when is a good moment to start to bend the right leg. And then start to alternate. It means when you're in the middle, you can transfer your gaze from one hand to the other. Just continue to the next side. Just go back and forth like that. And you'll always be looking at one hand or the other. Okay, now let it go and just rest on your back again for a moment. As you're resting, notice which sensations are drawing your attention now. What parts of you did that movement leave an impression? Okay, good. Now, interlace your fingers, bring both your hands behind your head. And then bend your knees, put your feet standing on the floor. And then lift the 2 feet away from the floor so your knees come over you in the direction of your chest. And now feel, if you unbend your knees a little bit, you can lift your pelvis a little bit away from the floor by straightening the legs. And then, of course, you let the legs bend again. You feel the pelvis kind of roll back onto the floor. Just do that movement a few times. So you straighten your legs just a little bit so that you feel the pelvis lift away from the floor. The area where the back is pressing on the floor kind of moves up the back. Maybe not all the way to the shoulders, but in that direction. And then the pressure moves back down the back when you bend the legs and let the pelvis return. Okay, now leave the pelvis on the floor. Put the 2 feet back on the floor so they're standing. And now simply bring the 2 elbows forward so you can use the arms to help you pick up your head. And then set the head back down. So a few times, use the 2 arms, the elbows forward, to help you pick up your head. Just a little bit that's easy, and then you set the head back down. Good. And now with the elbows forward, just delace the fingers. And now unbend your elbows so you can reach forward with your 2 hands in a way that'll help you pick up your head off the floor. And then let the head go back to the floor, let the elbows bend. And a few times like this, you'll lift the head by unbending the elbows and reaching forward with the 2 hands. And just feel how this is similar to picking up the pelvis by unbending the legs. And you wouldn't necessarily come all the way up onto the pelvis, but you're shifting your weight down in that direction. Okay, leave that movement for now and just bring your arms down along your sides. Lengthen the legs. Just have the head heavy on the floor so you can rest again. Okay, great. Now, again, roll yourself onto your front side. And start with your head facing to the left, so the right ear, the right cheek on the floor. And have both arms long above the head on the floor. And now, with the eyes open, simply lift the head a little bit to look at the left hand. And lift the left hand, the arm, into the air just as high as they go easily. And then you set them back down. You set the head back down. And then a few more times, do the movement focused on making it as easy as you can. Do not have to make a big movement now. Do not have to roll. You just focus on making it very soft, very easy. Just do the easy part. Now, the next time you've got the head and the arm up in the air, just pause there. You'll be able to pause there very softly. See if there's anywhere that you're making extra effort that maybe you don't need to. In the abdomen, anywhere along the front, can get longer. And now, like this, lift and lower the long right leg a number of times. When you lift the right leg like this, does the left arm move at all? Does it go away from the floor? Does it go closer to the floor? What happens? Whenever you get tired, you just set everything down to rest. And then whenever you're not tired anymore, you just run this little experiment a few times. So again, the experiment is just to see if you have the left hand and arm, head raised a little bit from the floor. Then if you lift the right leg, what happens? Does it make it easier to have the other stuff lifted? Or does it make it harder? Okay, good. Now just pause for a moment. Let everything rest on the floor in some position that's comfortable. Okay, now turn your head to the right so that your left face is on the floor. then lift the head, turn the eyes to look at the right hand, and then lift the right hand, the right arm, just the amount that's easy. Don't lie to yourself, just do the easy part. And feel what has to soften for that to really be easy. How small does the movement have to get, if you're honest? And then lift the arm and the hand, the eyes, or you can just leave them in the air, so they're softly lifted. And then lift and lower the long left leg a few times. Good, now set everything down. Okay, now all at the same time. So you'll start to lift the left leg at the same time that you start to lift the right arm, the eyes. So a number of times you just try to make it all one movement. One movement that starts somewhere, I don't know, where does that movement start? Okay, now lift them all and then hold them up in the air. Ideally in a way where you can keep breathing. Try to just feel how from the right arm down to the left leg there's this long diagonal line. And the right hand, the left foot, the ends of the line are somewhat suspended. And then somewhere in the middle of the line is pressing more into the floor. And hopefully you're still looking at your right hand. So now maintaining this curved shape, this diagonal line, tilt yourself so that your right hand goes a little farther away from the floor as the left foot goes a little bit closer to the floor. And then tilt the shape in the other direction, so the right arm, the right hand go toward the floor, while the left foot comes a little bit away from the floor. And you just go back and forth like that, so you're rolling yourself across this diagonal line across the front. And when the right hand and arm are going up, you're looking at the right hand. But then see if there's a way that you could look at your left leg when the left leg is going up. So you're still going back and forth, you're rolling across this diagonal line. But now you're finding a way to turn the head so that you're looking at whichever limb is going up. You could go very slowly. If you want to, feel how the head turns. Very interesting. Like, when is the head in the middle between looking at these two limbs alternately lifting? Okay, stop. Just pause in your front. Put yourself in any situation that's comfortable with the arms, the legs. Okay, now turn your face to the left so you got the right face on the floor. Arms more or less long above the head. Then turn the eyes toward the left hand and watch as you lift the left hand, the arm away from the floor. So you watch it, and then as the left hand and the left arm are descending, then you can start to lift the long right leg. And you alternate lifting the arm and then lifting the leg. You're forming a shape along the diagonal line from the left arm to the right leg, kind of like a bow shape. Lower in the middle, higher on the ends. There's a way to do it, so if you go very slowly, feel how you can look at the left hand when the hand is lifting, and how you could look in the direction of the right heel when the heel is lifting. Doesn't mean you need to see the heel. You could look in that direction. Go slowly enough so you could let some of these little adjustments appear in the midst of the movement. Good. And now put everything down for a moment. Now with the two arms long on the floor above your head, lift your head so you can see both hands at once. And then lift both hands, both arms a little bit away from the floor. Set both arms back down. A few times you figure out how it feels to do it with both hands at the same time. And if you're not already, start to lift both legs at the same time you lift both arms, so you look at the arms. And you also keep setting everything down together. Do not make this a big movement. Make it very small, make it very comfortable. The smaller you make it, the more room there is to feel. Which part of you in the middle is going toward the floor when the limbs are going away from the floor? What part of your spine is going toward the floor when the head and the tailbone are going away from the floor, trying to? Okay, good. Leave it alone and roll onto your back so you can rest again. Any changes in sensation and self-perception since the last time on the back? Is it all the same? But now interlace your fingers, bring your two hands behind your head. And then bend your knees, put your feet standing on the floor. And then lift your feet away from the floor, bring your two knees in the direction of your chest. And now unbend your knees in a way that lifts the pelvis away from the floor. So it's like you're reaching with the two legs, and therefore the weight shifts up the back, kind of in the direction of the shoulders. And then set the pelvis back down on the floor. And then using the arms behind the head, carry the head forward so you shift the weight down in the direction of the pelvis. And then set the head down, set the shoulders down. And then again, lift the pelvis by straightening the legs. And then set the pelvis down, and again bring the head forward. So it's like the top of the head is going forward and coming down. Okay, leave it alone. Again, just lengthen the legs, bring your arms down along your sides, just rest on your back. Good. Now roll yourself onto your front again. And this time bend both of your knees so that your feet are up in the air in the direction of the ceiling. And then tilt both of your lower legs inwards so that you can put the two soles of your feet together. It's kind of like a triangle, like your two lower legs and then the floor make a triangle. And then put your two palms, two hands on the floor next to your chest. So like you're going to do a push-up. Good. Now you do a movement where you push against the floor with the two arms, help you turn your face to the left. You look over your left shoulder in the direction of your two heels together. Not important to see the heels, just important to go easily. And then next time you're in the middle, just look over the other shoulder, go the other direction. And you can use both arms on the floor as much as you want to go only as far as it's easy. And then when you come back to the middle, now you just alternate a few times. So you look over one shoulder and then the other shoulder, going through the middle. It's potentially very interesting in the middle to feel what happens if you don't just skip over the middle. Now when you look over the left shoulder towards the two heels together, also lift the left knee a little bit away from the floor. You set it back down, and you come back through the middle. And then when you look over the right shoulder, you lift the right knee a little bit away from the floor. But it's not important for the knees to lift high, even if they don't lift at all. Even having the intention to lift the knees is going to require all these little adjustments if you make space for them. Okay, good. Now leave it and roll onto your back. And now bend your knees to put your feet standing on the floor. And then interlace your fingers. And now put the 2 feet together so the soles of the feet are touching. And with the hands interlaced, grab a hold of the 2 feet. And now in this position, as gently as you can, you move the feet and the hands together a little bit in the direction of the ceiling. So you unbend the legs and feel the arms also get longer forward in the direction of the ceiling. And the head can also go forward, sort of like the top of the head wanting to go toward the ceiling. So the back is getting longer and getting very round. Just feel now if the arms are lengthening symmetrically or if there's some difference between the right arm and the left arm. And you still make space for the breathing to take place. Okay, leave it now and roll back onto your front side. Again, bring the 2 soles of the feet together. And then put the hands in a push-up position. And now again, try looking over one shoulder while you raise the knee on that same side. And you come back through the middle. And then over the other shoulder and the other knee. Did it change anything to do that thing on your back you just did? Did it make this any easier, any harder? Okay, leave it again and roll onto your back for another rest. Okay, now again, bend your knees and put your 2 feet standing on the floor. Okay, now lift your 2 feet up in the air so you can put the soles of the 2 feet together. And with the right hand, get a hold of the 2 feet together. And you have the left arm just resting on the floor to the side. Maybe at a 45-degree angle, but you'll find out exactly where you need it. So now start to straighten the legs just a little bit in a way that lifts the pelvis a little from the floor. And then allow the knees to bend again. You feel how that lets the pelvis return to the floor. And a few times do that so you unbend the knees, feel the pressure shift a little bit up the back. And when you bend the knees, pressure shifts back down to the pelvis. Okay, now just let go with the right hand, put the feet back on the floor, and just rest for a moment. Okay, then again, get the 2 feet with the right hand, so the soles of the feet are together. Same hand that you just had. And now you'll continue with the movement, but you're going to add a little bit of speed. So you use the unbending of the legs, the bending of the legs to roll yourself kind of up and down the back. But less carefully now. When you roll yourself like this with some speed, it introduces some momentum. And I'll say something, don't do it just because I said it. See if it makes sense. If you have enough momentum, you could use this rolling as a way to bring yourself up to sitting. And with the left arm on the floor, left elbow, left hand, how does that help? How does that fit in? But listen, don't sit up unless it's relatively easy to do, because it's not important if you actually sit up. You're using the idea of coming up to sitting to help you explore the movement of rolling with some momentum, figuring out how's the back got to get very round to actually roll. Okay, now pause long enough so you could switch hands. So now you have the left hand holding onto the 2 feet with the soles together. The right arm on the floor over to the right. And don't start with the momentum. This time just go back to straightening the legs, bending the legs, just feeling how that shifts the weight up and down the back. And once you've developed an image of that that's more or less clear to you, you can introduce some speed, some quickness, get some momentum. And then you start to explore how could you use that to help you come up to sitting. With the right arm, you can help a little bit. And how can you work with the temptation to just use brute force? Can you be going fast and still work slowly? Okay, leave it alone one more time and just rest on your back, the legs long, the arms along your sides. And then one last time, roll yourself onto your front. Bring the soles of the feet together and put your hands in a push-up position. And revisit the movement of looking over one shoulder, then the other shoulder toward the heels. You lift the knee that's on the same side as the shoulder you're looking over. Good, and then leave that alone and bring yourself up to standing. And then just take note of how you feel when you're standing. What do you notice about the carriage of the chest, the carriage of the head? And how the arms are hanging. And where the pelvis is in space on top of the legs. And then take it for a spin. Just walk around the room a little bit to feel how you feel. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Feldencast. If you'd like to reach out and say hello, please do. You can email me at ethan@feldencast.com. I offer the Feldencast in a spirit of transparent generosity. If you have enjoyed your experience, and if you want to give back, please check out the Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Feldencast. Right now, this podcast is just a baby. We have on average 10, 12 listeners per episode. So if you'd like to help the Feldencast grow, please share this episode or any other episode that you've enjoyed, especially with family and friends. Thanks again for listening. I'm really enjoying this project, and I hope you are too.